Some history books aren't just a dusty record of what happened. They're actually a carefully crafted message, trying to make a very specific point. Today, we're going to crack open one of the most interesting examples of this, the second book of Chronicles. So let's start with this big question, because it really frames everything we're about to talk about. What if this book isn't just a history lesson? What if the author had, I don't know, a hidden purpose? A really powerful point he wanted to make to his original audience, and maybe to us too? Okay, to get what's going on, you've got to understand this one core idea, the Davidic standard. The easiest way to think about it is like a divine report card. The author uses King David's faithfulness as the gold standard, the A-plus benchmark. And every single king that comes after him, well, they're about to get a grade. Right, and this is so crucial. The writer of this book, who we often just call the chronicler, isn't just writing down facts. No way. He's more like a preacher who's using the lives of all these kings to deliver a powerful sermon through history. For the people he was writing to, a community trying to rebuild their entire nation and their faith, this wasn't just ancient history. It was a lesson in what really mattered for their own future. So let's see how this whole report card thing plays out, starting with the king who came the closest to getting that A+, David's own son, Solomon. His reign is set up as the absolute high point of the entire story. So right at the start of his reign, God basically gives Solomon a blank check, asks him, what do you want? I mean, he could have asked for anything, tons of money, power, a super long life. But what does he ask for? Wisdom. Wisdom to lead the people well. It's such a selfless request, and it just shows you that, at least at the start, his heart was in the right place. And would you look at the response? Because Solomon put God's people first, God gives him the wisdom he asked for, sure, but then he also throws in everything else he didn't ask for. We're talking wealth so huge that silver and gold were supposedly as common as rocks in Jerusalem, honor like no king had ever seen, and of course, a massive army. All of this wealth and power points to what the chronicler sees as Solomon's greatest achievement, building the temple. This was his father David's dream, and Solomon is the one who makes it a reality. For a nation whose entire identity was wrapped up in God's presence, the temple wasn't just a fancy building. It was the heart of their world. It was the symbol of God's promise to them, and it's absolutely central to that Davidic standard. And the scale of this project was, it's hard to even imagine. It took a massive, massive workforce. Just to start, you've got 70,000 common laborers. And then, on top of that, you've got another 80,000 guys cutting stone up in the hills. And the sheer opulence? It was just breathtaking. The inner sanctuary alone, the most holy place, was covered in over 600 talents of pure gold. That's more than 20 tons. This was not just a building, it was a national statement of devotion. But here's the amazing part. In the middle of all this incredible grandeur, Solomon shows this deep humility. He gets it. He says, look, even the highest heavens can't contain God. So how could this building I made? He understood the temple wasn't a box to hold God in, but a place where people could turn toward him. So for this one glorious moment, Solomon is the model king. He's like a second David. He's a temple builder, a wise ruler. The standard has been met. But the chronicler leaves us with this lingering question, doesn't he? It all seems too good to be true. Could it possibly last? And the answer, as you might have guessed, is a hard no. What comes after Solomon's amazing start is this tragic, repeating pattern of failure. King after king steps up to the plate, and king after king gets a failing grade. And the chronicler makes the pattern super clear. You can almost set your watch to it. It's a 4-step cycle you see again and again. First, a king starts out great, following God. Second, God blesses him with success and peace. Third, that very success leads to pride, to self-reliance. And fourth, that pride leads straight to disobedience and then judgment. King Asa is a textbook example. He starts out so strong, getting rid of idols, trusting God to defeat this gigantic army. But later on, when he's facing another threat, he trusts a political alliance with Syria instead of God. And then, at the very end of his life, he gets this disease in his feet, and he only goes to the doctors. He's completely forgotten where his real strength came from. And it wasn't a one-time thing. We see the exact same story play out with King Uzziah. The Bible is so clear. As long as he sought the Lord, God made him prosper. But then, once he became powerful, his pride destroyed him. He gets so full of himself that he marches right into the temple to do something only priests were allowed to do. And for that, he's struck with leprosy for the rest of his life. His own success was his downfall. And the list just goes on. You see it with Joash, Amaziah, and on and on. So many of them start with so much promise, but they're eventually brought down by power, by pride, by listening to the wrong people. Nobody, it seems, can keep that Davidic standard. So you have to ask, right? Why spend all this time going through this long, kind of depressing history of failure? Well, for a people who probably felt like failures themselves, this wasn't about rubbing it in. It was about making a much bigger point. And that brings us to the final grade. The chronicler basically parades these flawed kings in front of us, one by one. Even the best one, Solomon, had a divided heart. Rehoboam was a fool who split the kingdom. Jehoram was just plain evil. Even a guy like Joash, who started out so good, ends up murdering the son of the very man who saved his life. The message couldn't be clearer. The promised king, the perfect heir to David's throne, yeah, he's not in this lineup. And if you were to visualize it, the final report card is brutal. The number of kings who are unfaithful or just didn't finish well is massive compared to the tiny number who were maybe consistently faithful. The overall grade for the monarchy? It's a big fat F. And here it is. This is the thesis of the entire book laid out for us. The chronicler was searching through history looking for that one promised son of David. He looks at every single reign, and his conclusion is, nope, not him. Not him either. The real king, the one who would finally get it right, was still to come.
So, you see, this isn't actually a story about despair and failure. It's the total opposite. It's a story of hope. By showing in painstaking detail how every single human king failed to live up to the standard, the chronicler was creating this deep, powerful sense of anticipation. He was teaching his readers to look forward, to hope for the one true king who would not fail. And that leaves us with the final big question. If every single king on this historical report card gets a failing grade, if the whole point of the book is to show that the throne is still waiting for its true, perfect occupant, who was the chronicler really pointing to?